You've probably seen these gurus online claiming that you can make
$10,000.
30 grand, $50,000 profit months.
and you're probably wondering, is that actually true? Well, 12 months ago, I put these big claims to the test. I had just lost $40,000, I got out of Thailand jail, and I needed to make money fast. So I decided for the next 30 days that I was gonna try remote sales. I wanted to find out if it's actually possible to make $10,000 a month with remote sales, if it's better than normal sales jobs, or if it's just a big scam that's being pushed by all these influencers. But before we dive into the results, I'm gonna explain how this all started. I didn't start off as some natural born salesman or a slick talker who was just really confident. I was actually like a nerdy, shy kid in high school. I was skinny and I didn't have very much confidence. I was literally the most awkward kid who should have never succeeded in sales. Not only that, but around this time, I had lost my entire life savings. I had started a few drop shipping stores and made a little under $100,000, but then I blew it all because I never had money and I wanted to experience what it was like. So I was flying business class, staying in 5-star hotels, going to crazy expensive dinners, just blowing all of my money because I thought it was just gonna keep coming. But because of me not having much cash on hand, as well as my Facebook and ad accounts getting shut down, my business completely crashed and burned. And to make things even worse, at this time, I ended up in jail in Thailand and extorted for even more money, which that's a whole nother video in itself. But once I got out of jail and I flew back to the US, I ended up having to go live back with my parents, which was super depressing. I went from living this incredible lifestyle at 17 years old, traveling the world, living on my own terms, to having to move back in with my parents and start from scratch. So since I didn't have any starting capital, I needed to figure out how to make money without any money. My friend actually suggested that I get into sales. So for a few months, I got into high ticket sales and selling info products for creators. And I actually made some money. I was able to move out of my parents' house. I was able to get a decent car and I was making okay money. But I always knew that high ticket sales wasn't a long-term opportunity. Sure, it's good for making some quick cash, maybe building your skill set, but you're completely reliant on someone else to bring leads into the door. And if you stop taking calls, you stop making money. But then I was given a life-changing opportunity. One of my friends told me that he heard about this kid he knew. It's literally a complete frat kid that didn't have business experience or previous sales experience, and he was making $30,000 a month with financial service sales. So I knew I had to meet this kid and see what he was doing. So I flew out to LA to meet him, and after realizing how good this opportunity was, I quit my high-ticket sales job and I joined his team and started this niche of sales. So the way that financial service sales works is you get a mentor, they help you get licensed, you get placed on their team, and then you can start hitting the phones. But the only problem is I was super nervous. Like I said, I used to be a super shy kid, and yeah, I got used to high ticket sales, but these were people that booked into your calendar and they were ready to talk to you. And I know this sounds a lot easier, but it actually means that you make way less money because you don't actually control your leads. And this type of sales, you own your own leads, which means the amount of money that you make is based on the inputs that you do. But like Jordan Belfort said,
pick up the phone and start dialing.
with the leads, you can get them from different sources, but generally how it works is these people see some sort of ad online or on Facebook. They fill it out, they put their information in, they're interested in the product that you're selling, and it's your job to follow up with them and actually close them on call. And sometimes people forget that they put in these requests. So by first week, I was getting absolutely cooked. I was getting people that were hanging up on my face, telling me they're not interested, and my first week felt horrible. I was in a pretty negative mindset because I went from getting calls booked into my calendar to getting absolutely shit on. But I knew the earning potential with this was so much higher, so I kept pushing. Here's how much money I made in my first week in this sales position. I was making hundreds of calls every single day for my first week, and I only closed one deal. I came home with a whopping $500. And of course, this was way less than I was used to making, but I kind of expected this because I know with sales that you do need to learn the process and get better, but I knew if I kept improving, I would make more. So here's what happened next. Week 1 was hard, but it was week 2 that really tested me. See, the game of sales is very simple. You make phone calls, you overcome objections, you close deals, and you make money. It's very simple, but it's not easy. Week 2 is whenever I started getting a lot of objections that I had no idea how to handle. Things like, I already have this through work, or I need to talk to my partner, or I don't trust insurance companies, things like that. So when these new objections would come up, I would choke and completely kill the sale. I started getting further into calls and actually getting the interested clients to understand what we're talking about, and I would get close to closing the deal. Then I would get something like, oh, I don't give out my payment information over the phone. And I had no idea how to handle it, and I would just lose the sale. And it was super frustrating because I just knew if my skill set was a little bit better and I knew how to push these people over the line and overcome these small objections, I would have made a lot of money in my second week. But I just kept pushing. So by the end of week 2, I made around the same as week 1. I was still making hundreds of calls a day, and I also closed one deal. So I ended up around the same amount as week 1, around $500. But even though I did have a rough week, I felt like I was progressing. I forced myself to study and go over all the objections that I was getting, and I was actually getting a lot better. So going into week 3, I had a lot of momentum, and this is when things actually started building up. During the first half of the week, I'd already closed 2 deals and made over $1,000. I felt a big shift. I was getting a lot more confident, and my initial nerves started disappearing. But at the end of week 3, I had something that happened to me that completely discouraged me, and this only completely derailed me and made me give up on the idea of remote sales. What happened was, after feeling better and gaining some momentum, one of the deals that I closed ended up charging back. A chargeback is whenever you close a customer, but then they back out of it and then you get charged back the commission that you were paid. And right after I had my first chargeback, I had another one hit. So 2 out of the 4 deals that I had closed charged back, and this almost made me completely quit and was honestly one of the toughest moments of my entire first month. I felt like I had made a lot of progress and overcame so much my first month. So after dealing with this hit me hard mentally. And although this happened, I knew that in order to reach my goals, I couldn't quit. And this is where most people do. They get through the first couple weeks, they make a little bit of progress, they might even make a sale or 2, and then they start getting discouraged or lose momentum, or they might even face a chargeback, and that completely derails them. And then you see these people going online and talking about how insurance sales doesn't work, or that it's a scam, or all this negative stuff. But the truth is, this is completely normal with sales. Obviously, when you're first learning and starting out, your first few deals aren't going to be super solid, and you might not tie them down as much. So they could end up canceling. That's why you need to get better and understand how to sell the person the right way, as well as lock them down and make sure that they're 100% committed to the product that you're selling them. In fact, one of my mentors actually gave me a piece of advice that helped me get through this initial period. He explained to me that in most type of sales, the first 1 to 2 months have what's called the adversity period. And this is where things suck because you're making a lot of calls, you're doing the inputs, and you're facing a lot of rejections, but you are improving your skills. But you're not left with much to actually show on the scoreboard, and this can be draining. On the surface, it doesn't look like you're making progress, and your mind can start playing tricks on you. You'll start saying things like, oh, I can't make this work, or oh, I'm not good at sales. And this is why most people quit. But this is exactly what separates the winners from the losers, because I knew if I quit, then I wouldn't build the life of freedom that I actually want. If I want to buy the car that I want, if I want to provide for my family and live the life of freedom that I want, that there's no option to quit. I had to overcome this period, or else I'd have to go back to living with my parents, working a crappy job, and accepting an average life that I don't want to live. My mindset was, if someone else can make this much money in this opportunity, then I can too, because there's no difference between them and me. I just need to figure out what they did, how they built their skill set, and build my skill set to the same level so that I can replicate the results. So this is whenever I became obsessed and I completely doubled down. The following weeks, I went super hard. I was making more dials, I was studying objections more, I was reviewing my calls, and working harder on every end to improve my skill set. And at this point, because I was becoming more competent, this led to me becoming much more confident on the phones, and anytime I got an objection or got rejected, it didn't faze me at all. So naturally, I was way more confident on the phones, and this is whenever I started getting a lot more deals. In the last week of month 1, I closed more deals in that single week than I did the entire month before. And there's something that happens whenever you get put in a tough situation and you still overcome it. This shifted my identity and I became a new person. So I went from someone that was shy and insecure to someone who was able to pick up the phones, and I was actually excited to talk to people. And not only that, unlike my high ticket sales job, I knew that I was actually building a real business. And that's the best thing about this type of sales, is that you can actually scale up and build your own team so that you can make money even while you're off of calls. But let's answer the big question that you guys were here for. How much did I make in remote sales in 30 days? So by the end of the first month, here are my numbers. I was making hundreds of dials a day. So by the end of the month, I made a few thousand dials. I closed around $8,000 in sales. So take home after chargebacks and everything was about $5,000 my first month. Now I know what you're thinking. You can make that amount of money in a normal sales job, which is true. But like I said, with this type of sales, it's exponential. So there's no cap. The better you get and the more you build, the more your income grows. So my second month, I made about the same, but then my third month, I hit my first $20,000 month. And then the month after that, I made my first $30,000 month. And now I'm clearing that consistently every month as a 21-year-old. And I can't explain to you guys how much this opportunity has changed my life. I literally went from going bankrupt, having to move back in with my parents, to now being able to buy a Range Rover. I have this office in Houston, and this is where I'm building my team. And now I'm actually scaling up to where I can make money without even having to be on the phones myself, while also changing people's lives with this opportunity. And that's the most fulfilling part. And yes, there are some sketchy people online promoting remote sales, but in my experience, it's 100% legit and it can change your life. But of course, that's only if you're willing to put in the work and overcome the challenges. And if you're watching this because you're interested in getting into remote sales, I do have a short video explaining exactly how to get started with it. You don't need to have any experience, and you can get placed on my team and work directly and get trained by me. But I'm gonna be 100% honest, the opportunity is not for everyone. You do need to be willing to work hard and sacrifice, which not everyone can do. Like I said, you don't need to have previous experience or a bunch of sales skills. You just need to have an obsession to get better and actually change your life. So I'm gonna leave a link to that video below, but if you're still checking out the opportunity, here's a video that you can watch to learn more.